Donald Trump.
This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again.
Here you go in ebullient form, as you might imagine. He suddenly becomes just the second president ever to have lost the presidency and to have regained it. And you're going back to the late 1800s to the last fella who managed that. So if Clinton is the comeback kid, Trump is kind of Christ-like. Eamon Dunphy, thrilled to say, is with us. Hi, Eamon.
Hi, Joe.
You have covered Donald Trump now for a very long time. Your conversations with Niall Stanage in particular over the years have tried to make sense of this phenomenon. Your reflections, observations, emotions even, as you watch the last 24 hours?
Well, I'm not surprised, really. The Biden debacle at the end of his time in that debate was obviously a pivotal moment. It propelled Harris, who hadn't been a particularly sparkling figure either as vice president or indeed when she ran in the Democratic primaries when she dropped out before the voting even began. So she made a good start and applied herself as much as she could and deployed her personality. But I was only hoping that it would not be a Trump presidency. And I don't know how the House of Representatives has gone yet, but he has the Senate and now he has the presidency. He'll never need to seek re-election again. There may be no more elections in the United States. He has the Supreme Court locked up. So he has more power than probably most presidents have had. And it's extremely dangerous for the world. I would say in Ukraine this morning, in particular, there will be people who will feel badly that they are now endangered. And of course, Putin will be pleased and other authoritarians. So it's a really bad day. It's a shocking result in many ways, but the people have spoken. And that's what we need to examine, or that's at least what Trump's political opponents need to examine. Why did this happen?
Because in 2016, if you weren't a Trump fan, you could maybe comfort yourself with the thought that he had lost the popular vote and that a couple of the swing states had been tight and gone his way, and it was that kind of a win. Whereas here we are this morning, and he is on course to win the popular vote. And as you said, he'll likely have a Republican Senate, which allows him to rubber stamp the appointment of cabinet officials and judicial picks very routinely. He has a big mandate. The American public have handed him a big mandate. And I suppose when you look at aspects of his personality and his behaviour, it's really hard to understand this phenomenon.
Yes, it is. I think we don't know America as well as we think we know it. America has changed dramatically. Latino men, for example, were huge for Trump, but there are all kinds of demographics that we don't really understand. America is really, as somebody said not so long ago, an experiment. And it is an experiment in democracy. And this is a sign that the outcome is by no means guaranteed. And Trump has said very clearly that he's going to go after his enemies. He's going to go after the media, journalists, other politicians. He's going to look for vengeance. And that's not a great way to start. And of course, his economic policies, if you want to, look at them, even a cursory look is frightening.
Yeah. That point about, it can sound like you're exaggerating the point of touch. He's going to go after his enemies and go after the media. But even like it's quite telling in the days leading up to the election that somebody like Jeff Bezos, via the Washington Post, is suitably worried about vengeance to genuflect before him and say, well, we're not going to endorse a candidate. We're going back to our roots. We couldn't possibly endorse a candidate, even though we've done that for our entire existence. Even, that is a small telltale sign of the undercurrents and the power that Trump now can and will wield, I suspect.
Yes, I mean, he doesn't want a free press. I don't think Elon Musk wants a free press. And some of the people, if you just think back a fortnight to the Madison Square Garden rally, which was his final speech to the American people. This was his closing argument. I mean, it was a shocking event. It wasn't just the young comedian who made, an insulting joke. It was all the speakers. They were racist. They were anti-Semitic. They were really shocking.
Yeah.
And I think at that moment, I thought, how can this guy, how can he win? But he did. And he's won convincingly.
Yeah.
I think what's happened, Joe, I think that there's been a class of left of center politicians going back to Clinton, to Blair, Obama, who have lost the working people in America, the working class in America. The Teamsters Union about 6 weeks ago endorsed Trump. That's big.
Yeah.
The Blue Wall, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, there are working people there, blue-collar workers, as they call them. They're the people who vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And they vote on the economy. He went to Vegas and he promised no more tax on tips. And of course, Kamala Harris went immediately and said she agreed no more tax on tips. But he saw the edge there and he got it. And they have created, it's a populist movement, and he's called it a movement in recent weeks. It's a populist movement that isn't amenable to, orthodox politics as Washington has known them. Washington is the enemy.
And he's played that very well because, I mean, to try and assess his campaign or his campaigning, it does belie like the logic of the previous 30, 40 years. I mean, I was listening to Anthony Scaramucci, who was part of Trump's campaign in 2016, and he was talking about the morning after that tape surfaced of Trump caught on microphone saying that when you're famous, you can grab women by the pussy. Sorry to use the direct quote, but I mean, you got to be honest about how this guy talks. And Scaramucci remembers that morning, the campaign, and Trump himself thinking, well, okay, we're done here. I mean, we're done. Nobody comes back from this. And it was about the only time Trump came close to apologizing for anything. But again, that Teflon quality started then. And here we are 8 years later. He's a felon. He has been found guilty of rape. There are endless gaffes, and for all the kind of the cleverness maybe of the McDonald's stunt, which kind of landed with people, or things like, we're not going to tax tipping. He's also like dancing for 45 minutes to Ave Maria at what's supposed to be a Q&A. And by the way, good or bad, the polls don't move. None of this has an effect on anything. Nothing that happens over the last year really seems to affect anything. That's not to mention the assassination attempt either, and the kind of iconic photograph. It just, you use the word movement. That seems to be impenetrable to the comings and goings of what political correspondents are writing about day to day on the campaign. Yeah,
a movement is not a political party. It's greater than a political party. It's a cause. And the people who are going to his rallies, you can see them, men and women, the way they dress, the way they talk. They are part of Trump's movement. And his great success has been to somehow keep that movement growing and believing. And he did say, Joe, as I'm sure you know, everybody knows, that he felt, and he said this back in, I'd say 7 or 8 years ago, maybe before he ran against Hillary, that he thought he could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, kill them, and get away with it. And he's come pretty close to doing terrible things, almost as bad as that. And he has triumphed. This is a massive defeat for democracy, I think. And there are people around the world who are going to suffer. I'm thinking of the Ukrainians now, but there are others, and there are people who are going to prosper as well. I mean, Orban in Hungary, Viktor Orban, for example, who's an admirer of Trump's and an admirer, like Trump, of Vladimir Putin. And Putin is a gangster. He's a killer.
Yeah.
And the president of the United States likes him. So we better get over it and come to terms with what we're looking at. Without the United States, which is the most powerful democracy in the world, then we are all in difficulty.
Let's tease that out in a moment. One quick last word on the Democrats then and how they make sense of this campaign. So Harris had 105 days to campaign. It was noteworthy. I mean, you mentioned she wasn't overly popular as a vice president, Obama and Pelosi. They didn't rush in the initial stages of the Biden fallout to lend their support to her. But I guess there was no time for a primary, so she was up and she was in. I don't know how you assess her campaign. I mean, she seemed to give it a reasonable go. Maybe Joe Biden takes the majority of culpability here. You know, he came into the job saying he was effectively going to be a one-term transitionary president, tee it up for the Democratic Party for the next 8 years. And then I guess ego came to the fore, and none of us know exactly when his faculties really started to fail, because right up to and including the night of the debate, people around him were saying, no, it's all fine, there's nothing to see here, when clearly there was lots to see. So who knows how long they should have pulled the plug on that one in advance of that debate night. But like that's the big mess here. Maybe the original sin, and Harris does about her best. There's criticism maybe she should have had a Pennsylvanian running mate, for instance, and maybe she went on too much about democracy at stake rather than the price of petrol. All of that stuff is going to come up, obviously, in the wake of a defeat. But yeah, it was not the best hand to be dealt for in her defence.
No, I mean, she doesn't deserve scathing criticism. She was left really with an almost impossible task. And it was interesting last night that she didn't make a speech. She was back in her alma mater, and she didn't make a speech. She just left. She's pretty sore. She has never shown the ability to, or looked like a president. She's never shown the ability to do that. But the Biden presidency has been mixed. There has been good in it, in terms of NATO, in terms of the traditional American alliance with Europe, and he's been good on foreign policy. But he also, inflation, that is one of the big causes. Trump has won so convincingly. Joe Biden passed a 1.9 trillion New Deal for infrastructure, for climate change, and all of that. Very, very commendable. But that did cause inflation to arrive in a big way. Inflation is one of the principal things that killed her. The cost of, as you said there, petrol, as we call it, gas, as they call it, and the cost of living for ordinary people. And the electorate is made up of ordinary people. And their concerns. This guy is very bad news for all of us. He really is. He is a racist. There's no doubt about that. And people who have worked with him and left, like John Kelly, former chief of staff, a decorated soldier, called him a fascist, said he doesn't believe in democracy, and of course he doesn't. There were an awful lot of people who encountered him, who are fine people. They couldn't put up with him. And now that he has this kind of power without any check or balance, it's pretty frightening. I mean, I kind of woke up this morning and laughed when I heard the news, because laughter is sometimes better than crying. But it's very serious. I mean, just take Ukraine as one example. Take Europe. I mean, he doesn't care about Europe. And the one thing he said to his people repeatedly, I've never got us involved in a war. And he never has got America involved in a war. Think of the debacle of them leaving Afghanistan, for example. Think of their history and how many people they lost in Vietnam. And fighting other people's wars as isolationists in America, and Trump is an isolationist, as they said. Why are we fighting these wars? Why did they fight in 1939, come in and fight against the Nazis? That wasn't our problem. And I mean, John F. Kennedy's father was an isolationist, Joseph Kennedy. He'd been their ambassador to London. He thought that Roosevelt was wrong and was very vocal about it. So this isolationist tendency that has now triumphed in America and is maybe the prevailing value is not new. Why? Why are we fighting? And then, of course, there was a succession of wars. Don't forget George W. Bush going to Iraq with Tony Blair and bombing the hell out of them. There's a lot of reasons why liberals should look at themselves and think about the things they were part of. Tony Blair was very much a part of that.
Yes.
For what? He lied to his own parliament. So we've had a lot of people who are pretty insubstantial. Blair is one of them, have triumphed. And it's a vote against those kind of people.
Yes. So the scene was set for somebody like Trump, and though everybody hand-wringing this morning might well remember that. So your concerns over Ukraine jump out, and I guess everybody would share that. It's funny, I suspect, like a lot of people as well, I am waking up or else going to bed and looking at my phone, as people tend to do those times of the day. And the things that I'm seeing on my phone from Gaza just like make you want to cry.
They do.
Make you want to scream. It's hard to believe it's happening. And I suppose I was keen to see what Trump would say about it all. In the debate with Biden, he was asked what he would, what's the message about the situation? And his message then was, you're doing a great job, keep going. And I thought that was chilling, his message to Israel. And just a week ago, the Washington Post reported, with 6 sources who heard the phone call, 6 sources, he spoke with Benjamin Netanyahu. And the message from Trump to Netanyahu was, do what you have to do. Do what you have to do. Now, Eamon, in Benjamin Netanyahu's hands, that's one of the most catastrophic messages I could think of.
Yes, I think Netanyahu for months now has been hanging on for Trump, for a Trump presidency, and sort of almost banking on it. But Joe Biden and the Biden administration, of which Kamala Harris was part, they have been weak.
Yeah.
on the Israel-Palestine divide, the conflict. It has been, as you say, sickening. It continues. There are more victims every day. It's up to 45,000 now. 2/3 of them women and children, and that's just the dead.
Mm.
What about the limbless, the orphaned, those who've seen their children die? And for the West, in the form of America, and one has to say Britain and the other European countries, Ursula von der Leyen flew to Tel Aviv on day one and gave them her blessing. What has happened and is happening to the Palestinian people? First of all, it won't have been lost and wasn't lost on young people in the United States. And Michigan, for example, I think there are 4,000 Arab Americans. 400,000 Arab Americans, but they were a big voting bloc. I think that is something that the Biden administration is responsible for. And if you're thinking about what's happened, Donald Trump didn't do it. Joe Biden did it. And he kept giving them weapons. He kept sending his Secretary of State, who was there, Anthony Blinken, who went 11 times to see Netanyahu and got nothing.
Yeah.
So that's one problem. It's a bigger problem than Ukraine in many ways, but the world is dangerous now, Joe. As I'm sure everybody listening to us and you and I know it's a dangerous place, and the bad guys are winning.
Yeah.
And I don't see a way out at the moment. I really, really don't. And, you know, we will probably suffer too. But that's small beer when you consider what's happening to the Palestinian people and what has been happening to them since their land was taken off them in 1947 and they were banished.
Yeah. Like, I think a lot of people have found it so almost destabilizing, not because anyone was under the illusion that America are the good guys or the West, you know, are the good guys. I mean, that's patently obvious. Even you've referenced Blair and Bush's war just this century. But I suppose there have been numerous occasions where you would just read an account of what's happened over there, or you would see video or see an image, and you would think, okay, well, that surely is that. Like, someone's going to have to step in here and say that's too much. You know, I've had those moments multiple times across the last year, as I suspect most people have. And so it's kind of with a disbelief you then watch Blinken come out and talk to the public, or Trump say this, or Biden, or Harris, just as culpable in many ways, or Ursula von der Leyen, and what's going on in the UK as well, where you can't even have a protest about it. It's very destabilising. Like, I've never looked at the world now and thought, oh my God, bad actors everywhere here. This is awful.
Yeah, well, I'm getting old, and I've never seen anything like it. There is nothing to be comfortable about, or nothing happening in the geopolitical world that you can say, well, that's a ray of hope.
Yeah.
I cannot see it. And you were right to raise what's happening in Gaza and what's happening on the West Bank, where settlers are driving Palestinians out of their villages, out of their homes. The Israeli army is slaughtering people. So we have a genocide, we have ethnic cleansing, we have 390 Irish troops there serving for the UN. The UN is regarded now with contempt by Donald Trump, incidentally, by Netanyahu and the Israelis. Who gives a damn about the United Nations, which is a multilateral organ? All of these things were set up after the Second World War.
Yes.
NATO, the UN to avoid another catastrophe. Well, now we may see another catastrophe. Where will Vladimir Putin stop? It's okay for us to ask that question in relative comfort, but people in Lithuania, Moldova, Poland, maybe. So this is dangerous time. It's a time for serious people to reflect and see what the answer is. But the Trump thing could be a horror show, Joe.
Yeah. To try and wrap it up, then, you've mentioned, and I guess, but of course, by comparison with the awful situations we're seeing abroad, there potentially are consequences to Trump's economic nationalism. I've read several experts say that if he does put a tariff on imported goods from China and from Europe, it will push up inflation, ironically, and hurt the economy. And whether he does it or not remains to be seen. And then, of course, he has been talking about the corporate tax situation. He wants to cut the American corporate tax rate down to 15%, which would equal Ireland's, obviously. And everybody knows the value of these big US companies here. I think 3 of the companies account for nearly half of all the corporate tax money paid. So that's a worry, and I guess we see it play out. I guess I'm to kind of wrap up, I'm hearing 2 conflicting ideas in a way. The more worrying one is that if you take Trump's first term, there are enough sources to paint a picture of chaos and surprise and a lack of infrastructure around him and no singular vision, and it was just a bit mad, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas what's been said now is there is a plan of action ready to be executed and people in place ready to go. And that's a worry. But equally, then I saw John Bolton on the TV last night, and that was kind of put to him, and he was like, "Look, I know this guy. There is no philosophy. He's not an ideologue. He's just an egomaniac." And he wasn't saying he's harmless, but he was saying, like, he's all over the shop. It'll just be whatever he feels in a given day or what slide has arrived on the morning news. And so there won't be a concerted kind of plan. So it'll still be the same chaos. Again, possibly damaging, but I took his point to almost mean it'll almost be still too chaotic to be efficiently damaging. It'll just be an inefficient kind of madness for 4 years, but may not be the doomsday we're all maybe worried about. What are you expecting in that broad area, the type of administration he's going to run?
Well, he's going to run it for 4 years. Yeah. J.D. Vance might run it for the next 8 years. Well, if they bother having any more elections at all. And J.D. Vance is a more sinister figure in my book than Trump. But it's not going to be all right.
Okay.
And it's not going to be all right if the United States of America becomes a kind of plaything of a character like Trump. Then it is not going to be all right. I hate to say that because I'm a huge optimist, but I can't believe that this guy will make things better.
Yeah. You sound as kind of...
Well, I'm a happy warrior.
Yeah, morbid as you've ever been, really, about the state of the world.
Well, it's not in great shape if you're a Palestinian, if you're Ukrainian, if you're, someone who is an immigrant. He's going to deport immigrants in a very brutal way. He's thinking of building kind of concentration camps to hold them and then get them out. There are an awful lot of people who are helpless, defenseless, who are going to be hurt. So It's okay for us at the moment. But it's a pretty bad day for many people in the world.
Okay. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, Joe. Good luck with peace.